Hi again, guys. So this is ride day 7. So finally, I started hitting some nice roads and getting into the mountains, and I was so excited about it. Even though I got off the main highways, as you can see now, it's a two-way. So I started in El Paso, and then unfortunately the Rever app quit on me again. And unless you're looking at it all the time, you can't really know. And so I started in El Paso, then went a little bit along the border, and then headed inland. You can see that's El Paso. That's looking over the Mexican side there. And I went to Tombstone. So I took about that's about 2 hours out of my way to get to Tombstone. God, it was just over commercial junk in the main part of it. That was should have been the cool part. I mean, they really should work on making it a lot more authentic rather than it was a little bit tacky. But you can see me putting the 360 camera up here. But it still was pretty cool. The old the graveyard was pretty fantastic, and I had a walk around there for about 20 minutes. Had a bite to eat in town, just out of town, and but it was a really cool little adventure to go to Tombstone. I suppose if you're going to go near there, you may as well head there and have a look at it. It's quite a famous place, but it is really overdone. Just the real cool part of it, what could have been cool, was just overdone with just a little bit tacky. So the city there needs to work on that. I understand the need for people to make money and go for it, but it really should be a lot more authentic. Just felt a little bit manufactured. But I started to get really excited about the riding days here, and as you go past a few mountains and sweep it, get onto some of the older roads, it becomes a lot more fun, and so I was sort of I'd already mapped out and decided that I was going to take a trip to the Grand Canyon as well. So after I got to Tucson, and just take a little bit more time to get to Long Beach in California. I had a really good day's ride today. I think it took me around about 7 hours all up of riding, so it wasn't a big day of riding. And it's a lot more enjoyable. I mean, if you ride it straight, you probably do it in about 5 hours, but you're taking a few little detours, having a few breaks, and so I was really getting into it. I wasn't getting sore anymore at the end of a long day. The 10-hour trip I did a few days earlier, you do get pretty sore, and you start getting a few neck pains and stuff like that. But that that's just that's a long time to be riding on a bike. I wouldn't suggest it to anyone. I was watching another guy's vlog, and he goes, you just stop. You use your rests at gas stations. Well, no, you don't, because you want to basically. You want to feel like you're on an adventure, and if all you're doing, the only time you're stopping is at gas stations, all you're doing is churning out miles. You're not seeing anything, you don't get the same sort of feeling for it, So I always suggest that find a nice spot. Go to the gas station to get your gas and get a drink, and if you want to get a bite to eat there, get a bite to eat there, and then take it with you, and then find a nice little spot where you can relax, sit down. Most of the towns have little parks. If you want to just stop in a little town and sit in a park for a little while, maybe stretch yourself out. You can't do any of that at a gas station. And I watched his video, and I was getting pretty frustrated watching him talking about how you can do 14 hours in a day, day in, day out. I don't understand that. I took a few little detours, few little off-road detours as well, but they weren't very long. They were only about 10 to 20 kilometres connecting roads through small towns. Still a bit of fun, The roads were pretty good off-roaders, They weren't. It was pretty hard packed, and so it was pretty easy. As I went further south, I got myself into quite a bit of trouble, because when you get down to Mexico and Central America, South America, there's a lot of off-road routes, but a lot of them are blocked off with fences that private owners basically put a gate there along a fence, and you can't get through. I mean, I got through every single one of them. There's a policeman. I got through every single one of them, but only because I had to wait sometimes for somebody to come, or at least ride somewhere and try to get the attention of someone to open the gate for me. So I mean, I understand why they have the gates there, because they don't want to let the cattle out, whatever's grazing or whatever's protected behind the fence, but it's a little bit frustrating, and I got caught a couple of times where I had to wait like an hour and a half for someone to come along. But you know, I just use that time to rest. But as you can see, the scenery started getting a little bit better now, and this is actually this is where I'm actually heading into. I'm pretty sure I'm heading. I've taken the detour into Tombstone. Beautiful day, you know, 25, 26 degrees, you know, 80, 85, perfect riding conditions. You find that when you're riding, you've got to drop the temperature when you're actually riding, because the wind is cooling you down. So even if it's 100, well, you know, like, you know, 40 degrees, it's friggin' not nice anyway. But when it gets down to 90, below 90, which is about 35, it's actually really comfortable to ride. It's just when you get into the cities and you're blocked in traffic and you've got all that gear on, that you start getting sweating up pretty badly, and I sweat more than anyone else I know. I'm wearing the protective gloves as well because it's pretty cool today. But I was just trying to wear them as much as possible, just to wear them in, because they're pretty stiff when you get those with the bulletproof tool protection, the shells over the back of your knuckles and all that sort of stuff. You know, they're pretty stiff to ride, and especially when, so you can see me sort of like giving it a bit of a go there. But when you get onto off-roading, you really want to have a lot more touch in your gloves, so they've really got to be worn in nicely, so that there's a lot more flexibility in them with your fingers. I find that, you know, when they're really stiff, it's very hard to ride off-road, you know, because you're using the clutch a fair bit, you're changing gears a lot. Yeah, so it's a little bit, you know, and you want to have the feeling on the touch with the brake with your hand. Not that on off-road you brake with your front brake a lot, but it's just nice to be able to give it a touch every now and then. If you're going in a straight line on off-road, it's pretty hard packed. Front braking is just fine, but it's just when you're going around corners or when you've got a lot of loose stuff, you just don't want to be touching the front brake at all. Which you know, it's a bit of a bad habit you get from riding on roads. But once you get into it, and you start learning. Like I learned so much from just pounding out mile after mile on off roads. It was, and it became a little bit of fun, and you know, playing around with the brakes on the back and giving a little bit more here, a little bit more there. You learn a hell of a lot. I still want to go and do an advanced class or something, an advanced off-roading class or something like that. So that stuff is pretty good. When it's hard and thin, it's pretty good. Okay, I've sped this one up a little bit. So that's the main thoroughfare there. You can't ride in there. And I was doing a 360 of this, and I actually contemplated just pretending I didn't know what I was doing, but then I decided against it. I contemplated riding through there going, oh, sorry, I didn't realise. I mean, what's the worst can happen? I should have just done it anyway. Just said, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't realise. But yeah, so Tombstone was, you know, the rest of the town's pretty much just like any other town, but there's a couple of little old areas that I hung around and had a bit of a look around in. Yeah, I mean, this town makes nearly all of its money from tourism, so had a look around the other side and then got off after a while, and I came back here a couple of times actually trying to think of whether I could ride through there or not, but there was a cop standing in there all the time. So, but a pretty good place. It's got some pretty good history. It's just that main thoroughfare is pretty tacky. Yeah. So, and yeah. So once I got out of Tombstone, I headed back and headed up to Tucson, Arizona, and you know that's when you started getting up high in the sun of the mountains. You know, not massively high, but enough to for it to cool down quite significantly. It was pretty cool here actually. It was pretty cold when I got to here. There you can see one of the roads there. It was really nice. It narrowed after a while, but yeah. So I think this is where I'm heading back out of Tombstone. The actual cemetery is on the way in. I think I go past it again here. It's on the way into town. It's not right in town. I think it's somewhere up here on the right somewhere. Yeah, up in there is the old cemetery. It's on a hill, Boot Hill. It's on a bit of a slope, but there's some pretty famous sort of people there. So that was pretty cool. And this road actually, their road in here was pretty nice too actually. Had a few sweeping turns and stuff like that. It was pretty straight for a while, but I had a good day today. Like I started feeling like I was really getting into the journey now, mainly because I got off a few of the highways, and that makes a huge difference. I mean, if you're just sitting on major highways, on major routes, you're pretty much, I mean, even through Central and South America, a lot of them are just pretty boring roads. Probably not so through Central America. Some of them are pretty crappy roads. And in like Argentina and places like that, I mean, a lot of the major highways are just dirt and crap and terrible. But the thing about dirt is if you go on an off-road trail, it's pretty good fun. But if you're doing like 100 kilometres and it's really tough, it's really hard work. I only took a few little detours off road on this trip, and once you get into California, it's fantastic roads. All the old highways are just awesome. There's a train going by. That was just a little wayside stop along the way. But the truckies, you'll find truckies are pretty fantastic everywhere. They're all about they're on the road all the time, so they're always sort of trying to help you. You can overtake me now. I didn't have many issues at all with truckies. I had a lot of issues with bus drivers. Bus drivers, for the most part, were friggin' assholes. Especially in Central and South America, because it's just such a highly competitive thing to be a truckie in those to be a bus driver in those countries, because you've got to, each bus stop has a certain amount of people at them. So the faster you go, the quicker you get to the bus stop, more chance you've got of getting the next load. And I would never catch a bus in definitely not in Central America, and the worst country of all was probably Peru, where the dangers the risks they took were just ridiculous, and it affects you when you're riding too, because going around blind corners, you're so ready for it, and you don't really want to be listening to music, because you've got to wait to hear the horns of the buses, or in some cases the trucks, where they'll basically take up both lanes and just come around a corner on your lane. You can't have the pedal to the metal, so be it, so to say, because that's a pretty nice view there. Because going around a corner, going in the straights you're fine, but even like some of the other riders show me videos of buses just overtaking. So you're on a lane, like 2 lanes like this, and a bus is overtaking another one. You just got to get over onto the shoulder. It didn't happen that often to me, but it's pretty, especially when you've got a big load on, you don't want to be losing control of the bike. If you're going, 100 kilometres, 65, 120, 70 mile an hour, and then all of a sudden you've got to quickly veer off into the rubble. It's white knuckle stuff, I can tell you. This is me being an idiot. I probably, like, when the head get colder, I tried wearing a beanie, but it wasn't very comfortable. It was like putting pressure on my skull whenever I wore a beanie on top. So I actually shied away from doing that a fair bit. But in the colder places, you've got to wear a neck, get one of those neck warmer things, and that makes a big difference, But, like when it got down to Patagonia, you're basically breathing inside, and you've got it over your mouth, and you're breathing inside to keep yourself warm, because it does get pretty cold. and I wouldn't want to be in less than adequate riding gear once you get further south or in any wintry conditions, because staying warm just makes a huge difference to the enjoyment of the ride. And so I always suggest is spend your money on your riding gear, on your boots, on your pants, your thermals. Test your thermals out, because some of them talk about how good they are and they're just not. You know, I bought a second pair of thermals. I can't remember the brand name. Actually, Helly Hansen was the second pair of thermals, and they were really good. But you've got to get quality, and you've got to test it out. So you've got to, if you're going on a long trip, get your thermals out and try to get out early in the morning or so, whenever it gets to really cold conditions, and test them out. You'll soon find out what you need as far as your socks, your pants and your jacket, how much air is getting in and all that sort of stuff, because when it gets down to zero and minus zeros and stuff like that, you want to be warm. And you know, there was quite a few times, even though I would say most times I was pretty comfortable, there was a couple of days where I was freezing, especially in Chile, Argentina, down in Patagonia when it was raining. It was pretty cold, your hands were shaking and stuff, and there wasn't really much you could do to get warm because there wasn't any towns to visit. It was just about getting to the next destination. So yeah, some nice little shots here along the way. This is coming into Tucson, that one. Yeah, I was really starting to get into the trip now, and it makes a huge difference when you've got ever-changing scenery and mountains and valleys and nice little towns along the way. It makes a big difference. I mean, and once you get to Central America, it's like this all the time, and you just can't stop enough. You know, you just keep looking over and thinking, well, that's cool, I'm going to stop here, and then you think, well, I can't stop 50 times in a day, because that's just not realistic. Here I took a little detour through, before I got onto the main road into Tucson, I took a little detour through some farmlands and some agricultural places and stuff like that. It was pretty cool, actually. There's like chilies and green peppers, and all different types of stuff. A lot of cattle as well, which you just saw there. But some nice little towns as well, which I love riding through old, country style towns and stuff like that. It's just so much fun. But this was a good day's riding, because I finally got to some scenery, and it makes a pretty big difference when you've got something nice to look at. I actually stopped at a farm at some stage here, and there were some people working there, and they gave me a little bit of a bite to eat on some chilies and some other things. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so as always, any questions, comments below, and now I can start putting up some pretty good videos, because if it's been boring watching, it's definitely been boring making. Some of the ones are thinking, well, God, there's just nothing to show. It's just highway and blank stuff. But from this moment on, it gets pretty interesting, and some really good views and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed the video anyway, and if you've got any questions or comments, make sure you leave them below, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Any questions you've got, or any comments, good or bad. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks very much, and hope you have a great day.